In this video, I'm going to share with you how I avoid the 8 biggest money traps out there, saving thousands of dollars in the process, and how you can do it too, so stay tuned. Now, I'm personally guilty of making some of these mistakes myself, because I'm not flawed. I mean, I am flawed. Others are mistakes, major mistakes I see people in their 20s and 30s committing, so you should pay close attention because avoiding these mistakes might just save you $1 million in the long run. And if you get some value out of this video, drop a like, hit subscribe. Alright, let's get to it. What's up guys, at this channel we aim to improve your financial situation through education. I'm Aatlas and this is the world of finance. So the first one is relationships. You shouldn't be spending a whole lot of money in this category. It should have a low priority on your budget. So make sure that you don't spend a lot of money on relationships. This does not just count for the boyfriends or the girlfriends, but your friendships in general or family relations. In general, this category should have a very low priority on your budget. The second thing you should avoid is buying a new luxury car. It's a major mistake that a lot of people in their 20s make, but there was actually a study done by the Bureau of Labor Statistics that showed that owning a car, the yearly expense of owning a car is $9,000 on average. This is a huge expense for people in their 20s, so you should definitely avoid this. A thing that I like to talk about at this channel is that you should always, if possible, avoid or at least minimize your recurring expenses. And in this case, there will be recurring expenses of insurance, car payments, gas, and so forth. Instead, try to think, do you really need this car? Because if you don't need this car, if you can take public transportation instead, it would end up saving you a lot of money that you can use on a lot of other stuff that actually make you happy. So make sure that you really do need this car if you're actually buying a car. Otherwise, if able, take the public transportation. Also, a thing that you should be very mindful of is that if you do need a car, if you really need to buy a new car, not just for flexing, but buying a new car, you should definitely not buy a car off the lot. You should definitely buy a car that's at least 5 to 10 years old, because we're dealing with a depreciating asset here, and the first 5 to 10 years there's a really drastic loss in value here, because it depreciates like crazy. So make sure that if you really need a car, buy an old 5 to 10 years old car, so you avoid the huge drop in value. The third mistake that I see a lot of people out there committing is avoiding to contribute to a tax-deductible retirement plan. And this can be a 401k and IRA, depending on your country it can be named something else. But make sure to contribute to this. But a lot of people actually don't contribute to this plan, mostly because of lack of education. We aren't taught about money at school, so I can't really blame people for this. But in the long run, if you have a retirement plan to take the tax advantage and use the compound interest over time, it's important to begin early, because the compound interest will be significantly different if you start in your 20s versus your 30s. So make sure to start as soon as possible, because this will have a major effect on your final retirement number. People don't think long term, and it's a problem because down the road, 20, 30, 40 years from now, when you are going to retire, it's going to have a major impact on how you are able to live your lifestyle, because the compound interest doesn't have the opportunity to do its thing if you're first starting out when you're 40. So make sure to start as soon as possible. You'll thank me when you retire. Are you getting some value out of this video? Please drop a like, hit subscribe. Alright, let's continue. And you might be wondering, what is compound interest? Which is the time value of money. So time is a really important asset in order for you to grow your retirement number to a good amount, which will allow you in the end to live the lifestyle that you want to lead. So how big is this problem? Well, according to a study done recently, over 50% of millennials do not contribute to their retirement plan. So this is a major problem, and I believe that it's because of a lack of education and because people have a tendency to push their problems forward, so they don't have to deal with them right now, but will deal with them down the road. And this is a major mistake. So we're going to have a quick example here of how it can affect your money depending on when you choose to retire. So let's say you started to contribute to your retirement plan at 20 and you want to retire at 65. If we presume the interest will be 8% per year, you invest $100 a week or $400 a month. The total amount is $216,000 that you have been contributing with over a period of 45 years. You'll end up with a retirement amount of $1,855,000 plus change. And on the other hand, if we presume that you start contributing to your plan at 30, want to retire at 65, with the same 8% per year, you invest the same amount of $100 a week, $400 a month. This will only amount to $168,000 over a period of 35 years that you have been contributing with. You'll end up with a retirement amount of $820,000 plus change. So you can see here there's actually a difference of $1 million. So you can clearly see here that this mistake will cost you $1 million. So I hope I've convinced you to start contributing to your retirement plan, and actually some employers might match your contribution to your retirement plan. You should always try to maximize this. So the fourth thing is speculative investments. What do I mean by this? I mean people who are gambling their money away. It can be the lottery, but it can also be a stock tip that you received from a friend or the internet. What I mean is that your investment strategy is like a gambler's. You take bets on a whim or emotions or the newest quick fix tip. Instead, you should base your investment strategy on logic and good research. There's two kinds of analysis you can do on a stock as well. There's the fundamental analysis and the technical one. Remember, always remember, you listening? Always remember that investing is a marathon, not a sprint. There's a big difference between investing and gambling. Now, I've had a lot of friends tell me that investing is actually the same as gambling, but it's not. What we do when we're trying to invest is minimizing our risk while increasing the upside for profit. Gambling is just betting, hoping for the best. But here we take different tools and use them to minimize our risk while maximizing our upside. If you want me to go through what fundamental and technical analysis is and how you can use them in order to buy different stocks, leave a comment down below and I'll definitely make sure to create a playlist or a series on that as well. Number 5 is no money down plans. And no money down plans can be a really bad thing. It can be good as well, but in most cases it's bad for most people because there's usually a high interest involved, and you also have the problem of over leveraging. No money down plan can involve houses, appliances, furniture, you name it. There's almost no limit to what it can evolve around. But what about a no money down plan with a fair interest rate of 4%? It's still a bad thing if the leveraging isn't creating you any cash flow. So make sure only to use a no money down plan, or in other words, a leverage, if you're buying an asset. And I'm not talking about a depreciating asset like a car, unless you're a taxi driver, but I'm talking about stocks, bonds, real estate, assets that in general are appreciating but also producing a positive cash flow. Here's an example. If you have an asset that doesn't create any cash flow, the interest rate is 4%, you lose 4%. If you on the other hand have an asset, let's say real estate, that produces 14%, but the interest rate is 4%, you're actually making 10% on your leveraging. This is a good place to actually use these no money down plans, but in general people use these to buy furniture, appliances, the new mattress they need, a new bed and so forth. But the problem here is you're over leveraging yourself with a liability or depreciating asset that doesn't create you any cash flow. So just to sum up, if you don't have the money to buy something that doesn't produce cash flow, don't buy it. Never buy on impulse. Only buy assets with leverage. Assets that produce positive cash flow after the interests. That's my advice. Stick to it and you'll do far greater than most. Are you getting some value out of this video? Please drop a like, hit subscribe. Alright, let's continue. Number 6. It's called flex, and not in a good way. This is where people go out and burn out their cash on expensive brand clothes, the newest tech, buying a lot of drinks out in the city. This is essentially where people flex with their money with their spending behavior to show the world that they have a lot more money and success than they actually have. And this is a very dark spiral that most people never come out of, because they end up in a pile of debt. So make sure that you don't have these wannabe millionaire characteristic. Instead, try to follow the 12 characteristics of a true millionaire. If you want to go in depth with this, I suggest that you read The Millionaire Next Door. I'll leave a link for the free audiobook down in the description. Make sure to check that out. Number 7 is pets. And I understand that there's a lot of people out there with a lot of emotional attachment and love the companionship. And you should. I personally grew up with a lot of pets, from horses to dogs, cats and birds. But what I'm saying is, if we take all the emotion out of it and look at this argument from a logical standpoint, pets are not a single time expense but a recurring one. And at this channel we always talk about removing or at least minimizing the recurring expenses that you have. In short, having pets in your 20s can be a really huge mistake. Not only is there a lot of responsibility and commitment attached to having a pet, but you have this recurring expense of pet insurance, food, and so forth. So make sure that if you do want to have a pet, that you're mindful of what kind of expense you're walking into. So unnoticeable number 8 is not spending your money on your passion. And this can tune into a lot of the other things. If you have a car, if you're flexing your money, you're not actually spending your money on your passion, unless your passion is collecting cars or promoting different types of clubs and so forth. But a big mistake a lot of people make is not spending money on their passions. And so they end up spending a lot of money on things that they shouldn't. This does not mean that I condone sporadical spending behavior, but do budget for your passion. Do budget for you doing the things that you love, because we only have a limited time on this earth. So make sure that you spend your money where it actually matters to you. Next up, if you're truly interested in becoming a millionaire, maybe even a billionaire, you should definitely check out the playlist linked above. I hope you got some value out of this video. If you did, drop a like, hit subscribe. Alright, I'll see you guys on Monday. This is Aatlas tuning out.